Part 2, the music swells, the laughter is deafening, but all Cora hears is the quiet understanding in Rhys's voice. They are closer than ever, their deception having ironically created the most honest connection either has ever known. This is the moment, the terrifying, magnificent moment when she forgets she is a maid and simply is. But peace never lasts in a high-stakes game. A shadow is falling over the dance floor, red-faced and cruel, intent on claiming his prize. The moment of revelation is here, and it will not be quiet. Someone is about to pay the price for this night's deception, and it might be Cora's entire future. It was happening. I was no longer a ghost in the background. I was the center of his attention, the subject of his laughter, the object of his gaze. We had moved into the next dance, and the rest of the world had faded away. His hand at my back felt less like a formality and more like a possessive claim. We were a universe of two in a room full of stars. He was talking about his childhood, about the pressure of his title and the suffocating weight of his family's expectations. I was listening, truly listening, and I knew with a terrifying certainty that he had never spoken so openly to anyone before. And then I saw him, the Viscount. His face, ruddy with drink, was a mask of furious lechery. He was cutting through the crowd, a hulking figure of menace. His eyes, fixed on me with a repulsive intensity, were like a pair of beacons. His mouth was set in a sneer, a grim promise of the power he held over my mistress, and by extension, me. "There you are, my dear," he slurred, his voice cutting through the gentle music. He reached for me with a thick, meaty hand, his fingers already anticipating a claim he believed was his by right. A gasp caught in my throat. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. I recoiled, instinctively shrinking back against the Marquess. His body went rigid beside me. The warmth of his hand at my back turned to a cold, steel-like barrier. "I believe the lady is engaged," the Marquess said, his voice dropping to a dangerous, icy tone. He stepped between us, his posture a silent challenge. He didn't ask, he declared. The Viscount laughed, a coarse, jarring sound. "Engaged in a dance, perhaps, but she is spoken for, Marquess. Do not waste your time on what is already mine." Rhys's eyes, as they met the Viscount's, were no longer searching or curious. They were full of a simmering, protective rage. He took a step forward, forcing the Viscount to step back. "Then you may wait. For now, she is with me." A scuffle ensued. The Viscount, emboldened by alcohol, tried to push past Rhys. In the struggle, his heavy signet ring, a monstrous thing of gold and bloodstone, caught the delicate silver strap of my mask. It was a single, violent tug, a tiny click, a soft rip of silk, and the strap snapped. My hands flew up to stop it, but it was too late. The mask, my beautiful, delicate lie, clattered to the floor between us. The music faded into a shocked silence. All around us, heads turned. For a moment, a single, agonizing moment, Rhys didn't see a maid. He saw the terrified, beautiful woman he had been connecting with. His eyes, full of a genuine awe, looked from my face to the mask on the floor. I saw his slow, dawning comprehension. I saw the questions form in his eyes, but I saw only one thing: discovery. The illusion was shattered. The clock had struck midnight, and I was no longer a princess. I was a maid, standing exposed and humiliated in a room full of the most powerful people in London. A choked sob escaped my lips. I couldn't bear to see the look on his face when the awe turned to disgust. With a choked sob, I gathered the voluminous skirts of the borrowed gown and fled, my only thought to escape, to disappear. I didn't stop until the cool night air of the garden hit my cheeks. I ran blindly, the voluminous skirts of the ice-blue gown a tangled, heavy obstacle around my feet. The music of the ballroom was a distant, mocking hum, swallowed by the frantic beat of my heart. I fled past fountains and statues, past neatly trimmed hedges, until I found myself in a secluded corner of the garden, a small, dark haven where the scent of roses was overpowering. I collapsed onto a stone bench, pulling the fabric of the dress around me like a shield. My breath came in ragged sobs, and the humid night air felt like a cruel mockery of the grand world I had just inhabited. I was a forgery, a thief who had been caught. He must have thought me a fool, a ridiculous, lying girl who had dared to think she could climb so far. His voice, a low and measured tone that I had come to recognize, cut through my panic. I flinched, my head snapping up. He stood a few feet away, a silhouette against the lantern light from the house, his dark coat blending with the shadows. He had followed me. I scrambled to my feet, ready to flee again. "Stay," he said, and the single word was not a command but a quiet plea. He stepped closer, his face no longer obscured by shadow. I braced myself for the disgust, the anger, the cold, aristocratic dismissal. "Who are you?" he asked, and the question was laced not with anger, but with a quiet, profound awe. The tension in my body uncoiled, replaced by a devastating sadness. The truth, ugly and painful, spilled out of me. The coercion, the fear, the threat of destitution. "I am Lady Beatrice's maid. She needed to avoid the Viscount. She asked me to stand in for her," I said, my voice thick with shame. "I was only supposed to distract you, to give her time." I waited for his jaw to clench, for his eyes to harden. I waited for him to turn and walk away, leaving me to my humiliation. But he didn't. Instead, a rich, genuine sound filled the space between us. He was laughing, a laugh of pure disbelieving delight. "A maid," he breathed, stepping closer until he stood directly in front of me. He was close enough now that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. "Of course. It explains everything." He reached out, his hand gently cupping my cheek. The calloused tips of my fingers, the skin of my face, all the undeniable markers of my station were exposed, and he didn't flinch. "The way you spoke, the things you said, it was like talking to a real person. The only real person in a room full of porcelain dolls." Tears, hot and sudden, sprang to my eyes. You don't care?" I whispered, my voice breaking. "Care?" he asked, his thumb gently caressing my cheek. "I've been trapped in a parade of empty women for years, all of them trained to say the right thing, to wear the right dress, to pretend to have a mind of their own. And then you, a maid, came and spoke of composers and the insecurity of gossip. You thought I fell for the wrong woman." He shook his head, a wry smile on his lips. "You are wrong. I finally found the right one." He leaned down, his eyes dark and mesmerizing, fixed on mine. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. He didn't care about my station. He cared about me. The weight of the deception, the shame of the lie, all of it lifted, replaced by an intense, overwhelming connection that felt more real than anything I had ever known. The scandal was nuclear. It erupted the moment Rhys led me back into the ballroom, my hand held firmly in his, a defiant and public declaration. The sight of us, a Marquess and a Maid together, caused the entire room to fall into a state of shocked disarray. Murmurs and gasps ripped through the crowd like a tidal wave. Whispers about a common tramp and a deceitful little thing filled the air. But Rhys didn't flinch. He walked me to the center of the room, as if presenting me to a court. His chin was high, his back straight, and his eyes scanned the crowd with a fierce ownership I never thought possible. I felt like an actress on a stage, every eye fixed upon me, every whisper a cruel line I was forced to hear. I gripped his hand tighter, my knuckles white, the sheer terror of exposure threatening to make me faint. But his presence was a fortress. He was a rock in a storm of judgment. "This is Cora," he announced, his voice carrying over the din, silencing the whispers with its sheer authority. "The lady with whom I have been enchanted this evening. Any insult to her is an insult to me. Consider your words carefully, for I will not tolerate them." The statement was a gauntlet thrown at the feet of the entire ton. A few of the older, more powerful men looked at one another, their expressions a mix of disbelief and grudging respect. His power and wealth were a magnificent, glittering armor that protected me from their scorn. His reputation as a cynical and difficult man was now a weapon. For him to be so moved by a woman of no standing meant there must be something genuinely captivating about her. He had seen past the borrowed finery and the stolen title and had found something worth defending. The audacious gamble had paid off in the most unexpected way. From across the room, I caught sight of Lady Beatrice. She was standing beside the Viscount, who was now gripping her arm with a furious, possessive force. He was red-faced and raging, his jaw working as if he were trying to chew through his rage. Beatrice, in turn, looked at me, no longer with the weak desperation of a girl trying to save herself, but with a pure, concentrated hatred that promised this wasn't over. Her desperate act of rebellion had failed. She had traded one misery for another. The Marquess was now forever lost to her, and the despised Viscount was her husband-to-be, his victory now tainted with a brutal public humiliation. I could feel her promise of future revenge as a palpable, chilling thing. I stood beside Rhys, feeling the weight of his declaration settle upon me. The world had shifted on its axis. I was no longer a ghost, no longer invisible. I was now the center of a scandal, protected by a man who valued my authenticity above all else. But Lady Beatrice's eyes, full of a venomous promise, told me that this was only the beginning of our story. The dust has settled, but the war has just begun. Cora, once a shadow, is now the center of a monumental scandal, standing protected by the only man powerful enough to challenge the entire high society of London. But while Rhys is her shield, Lady Beatrice is her sworn enemy, and the sight of her vengeful hatred promises that the life Cora has newly found will not be easy to keep. What will society do to the maid who stole a Marquess? And how far will Beatrice go to tear down the woman who ruined her plans? Thank you so much for reading The Maid and the Marquess.